And well people, it seems that Optiscaler just can't stop getting better. Remember the video I made about XeSS 2.1 update where Intel opened their XeSS Frame generation and XeLL technologies to be used by AMD and Nvme cards? Well, now you can use these technologies with Optiscaler. Meaning that on top of being able to use FSR, XeSS, DLSS, FSR frame generation, and sometimes even DLSS frame generation, you can now also use XeSS frame generation and XeLL. Okay. And this is not the only thing that's new. There are lots of new things and I'm pretty sure that you're gonna like them a lot. And by the way, this is Ancient Gameplays, I'm Fabio Pisco, and welcome to my channel. And as for people new to Optiscaler, this is a software that allows you to use XeSS, DLSS and FSR technologies, even in games that don't fully support them. Let's say that you're playing Dying Light 2. This game only supports FSR 2 and DLSS, but with Optiscaler you can inject FSR 3, XeSS 2.1 or even FSR 4 into the game, making it look much better. And you can even force frame generation through the available DLSS frame generation inputs or simply use the inputs from the upscaler that you're using currently. And it is so absurd that you can even use Anti-Lag 2 or XeLL in games that only support Nvidia's Reflex. And the same applies to some games that only have FSR, for example like Resident Evil 4 that only supports FSR 2, where in case you have an Nvidia card, you can simply inject DLSS 4 into the game and make it look better and deliver more FPS. Basically, this is a must-have for all PC gamers that are focusing mostly on single-player games. You can use it for online games as well, but there are some games that have quite picky anti-cheat engines and they might actually ban you because of using Optiscaler, so I do not advise it. Use it at your own risk, but for single player games, this is a must. As for the Optiscaler version that I'm using, it is the Optiscaler version 0.9.0 pre-1 test build. And this is not the version that you can get online. If you go to Google and search for Optiscaler, this is the latest version that you'll see, the 0.7.1 Optiscaler Typeless. And it brings lots of new things like the ability to use FSR 4 with games that only support FSR 2, meaning that you can now inject FSR 4 and DLSS and so on in FSR 2 games, something that's new compared to the previous versions, but this version is only found in Optiscaler's Discord channel, so if you don't, I believe that the channel is open, you can just go copy the link here and go to Optiscaler's channel and the version, the test build will be here, with of course some issues because this is a test build, but it's working. And there are some changes again, XeSS Frame generation plus XeLL for even faker frames with Opti FG upscaler inputs as well as the DLSSG inputs, and I'll show you this. Also, XeSS Frame generation does not work in exclusive full screen. Yeah, you need to use like window borderless or borderless window, whatever. And for Unreal Engine games when trying to use upscaler inputs with DLSS, please disable dilated motion vectors. And I tested this in Hellblade 2, Unreal Engine 5, and the only thing that I noticed when using DLSS inputs was basically the movement when moving the head of the character, Senua's head, like this. We had some artifacts around the head. By disabling the dilated motion vectors, we kind of get that fixed. Then we have many other things that you can read now, but yeah, let's skip to the real part, to the real interesting part. Palworld is a good game to start with, because this is a real heavy Unreal Engine 5 game, especially if you're using 4K with a 7800 XT, and as you can see, we're running around 45-46 FPS. As you can see, not that great for 4K, but again, it is Unreal Engine 5 maximum settings. I guess that we can decrease these ones a bit to, let's say, high. It should be getting higher FPS now. Yeah, so we're getting around 58, 62, 65. Yeah, way better FPS now, above 60, but this is a great first game because it only supports DLSS. It doesn't support DLSS frame generation, it only supports DLSS. No FSR, no XeSS, nothing, just DLSS upscaling. Now what you need to do is kind of close the game, then you download this version of Optiscaler that I already have on the desktop here, then you go to your Palworld folder, in this case it's on my C disk, then program files x86, not MS Afterburner, Steam apps, common, and then we go to, then we go to Palworld, and then you don't really copy the files here, and this is just for the newbies in Optiscaler because some people don't really know, so I will do the installation one time first. Then you go to the Pal folder, binaries, Win64, and then you copy Optiscaler to the application folder, so to the real games executable. This one that you see here in the Palworld folder, this is just the application executable. As you can see, only 404 kilobytes. It is just for the Steam. You need to go to the real one, which is usually way bigger. So as you can see, 150 megabytes. Then you go, open Optiscaler, copy all these to the folder. Then you run setup Windows or Optiscaler setup. It is basically the same. You can select the option 1. Then are you using an Nvidia GPU or AMD/Intel, in this case 7800 XT, so AMD/Intel, option 1. And now it asks if you want to use the DLSS inputs, and in this case scenario, since the game only supports the DLSS, yes, you won't and you need to use the DLSS inputs. So you select yes. Bam, you're good to go. As soon as you run into the game, you can see that Optiscaler is now enabled here. I've got 99 problems, but low resolution isn't one. And as we go into Palworld, you can see that we're running at the same 60 FPS. But as soon as we go to the options menu, you now have the option to use the DLSS quality. We were running natively before with TSR, and now the DLSS is enabled. But this isn't really the DLSS, this is just the DLSS inputs. Remember, we're using the inputs from the DLSS to inject XeSS or FSR. So let's go to performance since we're running 4K. And by the way, this monitor is 1440p. I'm just running 4K in order to show you guys with better quality in terms of video quality. And if you press insert, you open the menu of Optiscaler or the Optiscaler menu. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Yeah, the UI scale maybe 1.2 or something. And looking at here, you can see that we're using the X12, XeSS 2.0.2, and the input DLSS. But we're using XeSS, we're injecting XeSS, hence why we have 76 FPS. As soon as we go for FSR 3.1.4, we go up to 89 FPS, which is a big difference, by the way, since we're using an RDNA 3 card. Also, we are using FSR 3.1.4, but if you have an RX 9000 series, you can inject FSR 4 the same way that you're injecting FSR 3.1.4 now. If you have an RX 9000 series, as soon as you select FSR 3, it will appear FSR 3.x/FSR 4. On top of that, of course, you have now frame generation, and you have the frame generation source and the frame generation output, which is also a new thing, alongside VSync on, VSync off, and so on, which is also a new thing. Now, as for the frame generation, since the game doesn't support any kind of frame generation, you need to go here, OptiFG, which uses your upscaler inputs, okay? As for the source, we have frame generation from FSR or XeFG. Let's start with XeSS Frame Generation. And now, since we're using XeSS Frame Generation, you need to go save ini and restart the game. And after restarting the game, just press insert again. And by the way, I changed from XeSS Frame Generation to FSR FG since I'm using AMD Relive to record the gameplay. Yeah, I tested XeSS Frame Generation and while recording it doesn't work well. But again, FSR Frame Generation, as soon as you enable it, active, look at the FPS numbers. Without it, we have 75. With frame generation, we have 123, 124. The fluidity is just much better, not even close to what it was. But if you look at the UI still has issues because you're using frame generation without, well, UI detection. So you need to go here and select HUD fix. Press it, save, and now as you can see, frame generation is working, but the HUD is also working perfectly well. So even without the game supporting frame generation, we are using frame generation and it is working fine with Optiscaler. And the input latency is actually pretty low since we are injecting Optiscaler inside the game. We are not using things like lossless scaling that does an outside of the game frame generation or let's say AFMF and so on. We are using an injection in the game, meaning that it is much better. By the way, show detected UI, as you can see, now it detects the UI with HUD fix. And if you think it is kind of stuttering or something, you can also enable VSync, then select one, which is to your monitors, and it will look even better. And especially some games with a HUD fix look much better and feel much smoother when you enable VSync. Don't ask me why, I don't really know, but it is just how it works, I guess. And after all, it seems that I was wrong, and XeSS Frame Generation just doesn't work well with Palworld. I mean, it just doesn't. If I go here, we're having around 90 FPS. As soon as I enable frame generation XeFG, as you can see, the frame timeline is just completely messed up. I thought it was because of the recording, but it isn't. It just happens that in this game, at least for now, again, this is a pre-test version, and yeah, it just doesn't really work, while FSR frame generation does. It is what it is. It's still kind of a beta version, so yeah. Now let's do the same process for Plague Tale Requiem. Open the folder of Plague Tale Requiem, and in this case, since the executable is actually here, 38 megabytes, you need to copy the files to this main folder. Copy. Now run Optiscaler setup. 1, and yes, we want to try the DLSS inputs. Plague Tale Requiem works the same way. We don't really have anything besides the DLSS super resolution. Again, the game does not support FSR, XeSS, it only supports DLSS, and this time DLSS frame generation. And this is why I'm testing this game, because unlike Palworld, it also supports DLSS frame generation. So let's start by enabling DLSS super resolution. Let's go to the performance mode since we're running 4K. Now, since Plague Tale Requiem does support DLSS frame generation, what you can do, since the game doesn't support Streamline, but we'll get there, for older games with DLSS frame generation, you can use this mod that you can also download with the link in the description, which is the DLSS to FSR3 mod. So you open it, you copy it to the file, or in this case to the folder, not to the file, to the folder of the game as well, the same folder where Optiscaler is, and then you run the game. So as soon as you enter the game, you press insert again. Nothing new, and we're running already FSR3, something that wasn't supported by this game. And as for frame generation, as soon as you have the Nukem's DLSSG mod. So now instead of having the FG upscaler, you can go to the Nukem's model. And then you press save, because the Nukem's DLSS FG only works with FSR FG, not with XeSS, sadly. Then you save ini, and you restart the game. And as you go into the game, again, by the way, as soon as you press insert, as you can see, you don't really have the option to enable frame generation. Why? Why is that happening? Because as it says here, please select the DLSS frame generation in the game options. You might need to select the DLSS first, and we are already using the inputs from the DLSS, sorry. But since we're using this mod in specific, we need to go to the graphics, and as you can see, the option for the DLSS frame generation is now enabled, the same for NVIDIA Reflex. So you enable frame generation, and now you go immediately to 120 FPS with silky smooth frame rates. Let's see if the UI is working fine, and even though UI should be working fine, sometimes it happens that it doesn't. And I believe this is a bug with Optiscaler's recent version or not, because since we're using the DLSS frame generation inputs, it should read properly the UI, but I guess it doesn't. Sadly. But now, since the game supports NVIDIA's Reflex and we are using anti-lag through Reflex, let's say that I want to limit the frames to 117. Apply. As you can see, the frames go down to 118, more or less. If I want to limit to lower FPS, I can do it, and basically no latency, because we are using anti-lag 2 to lock the frames. So if you want to use frame generation with locked frames, Optiscaler just works. As for XeSS, since I'm recording, this is what you see. When trying to use XeSS, in Palworld it didn't really work well, and in here the FPS are really crazy. With these settings, it just doesn't work well. As you can see, OptiFG, XeSS FG, but since I'm recording with the AMD Adrenalin app, it is what it is. As I go by it, 80 FPS, I enable it 100 and something, because again, it isn't working well. So if I take off the HUD fix, it works quite better. Oh my bad, it works quite better, but yeah, not great, because again, I'm recording and so on. It isn't optimal, but I can use the HUD fix, and if I use the HUD fix but then I use VSync to 1, it now works smoothly. The FPS aren't still perfect, and in a normal situation where I am not recording, it will work much better. But as you can see, as soon as I enabled VSync with the HUD fix, XeSS frame generation now works better. And one of the things that I noticed with XeSS frame generation is that it has way less input latency than FSR frame generation, and in terms of quality, it is also better. especially in terms of movement. The same things that FSR4 improved upon FSR3, XeSS frame generation does upon FSR frame generation. You get lower FPS with an AMD card, but in terms of quality, it is just much better. And again, since we are using XeSS frame generation, we can use XeLL. Let's say that you want to limit your frames to, let's say, 100. Apply, and the frames are now limited to 100. But again, since we are recording, it is just kind of crashing, even when using VSync. So yeah, but if you take off the limitation, now even recording, it is as smooth as it can be. And this is the last game, Hellblade 2. And by the way, this is a game that supports the DLSS 4 and the DLSS Frame Generation 4, meaning that it does support a newer version of frame generation and DLSS from Nvidia. So Optiscaler also offers a new option. If you go to the frame generation options, and by the way, I'm using FSR 3.1.5, and I'll be showing you in the next video how to update your games to FSR 3.1.5 if you have games with FSR 3.1. I'll show you, but anyway. As for the frame generation, we now have the OptiFG that we usually have, but we have this one, DLSSG via Streamline or via Streamline, and this is a new option for frame generation with Optiscaler in this test version, and it only works with the most recent games, with the most recent versions of the DLSS. So DLSSG via Streamline, and this way, even though that we are using the inputs from DLSS, we can use FSR FG or XeSS FG. So if we use FSR FG, by the way, so it should be working, active, and well, active we go only up, 40 FPS, and we go up to 70 with it activated. This is crazy. And I tried a different thing now, super resolution to performance, but the settings set to medium, and even with the settings set to medium, this game just looks fine. But even with upscaling at performance mode with the 7800 XT, yeah, we still get like 60 FPS, which is not a good performance. If we go to 2.3.4, let's see what we get. 63, it's basically the same. 3.1.5, yeah. Performance is the same. One thing that we need to do here with the Streamline is that you can choose the active option again, not unlike the Nukem's DLSSG. You need to select the active, okay? You can unselect it, and you can select allow async as well, but you need to go to the game settings. You still need to go to the game settings, and you need to enable frame generation. As soon as you enable frame generation, you can now use the Streamline on the mod, active, and now, as you can see, it will immediately go up to 100 frames. And in some games that support FSR FG and XeSS FG, you can also choose them as a source. Not all games support these. Actually, only a few games that I tested support these options, but it works. So let's now test let's now test XeFG, XeSS frame generation, and see how it works. Oh, but just before, one of the biggest points of using the Streamline, one of the biggest points of using Streamline is that you don't really need to use the hotfix. It will just work well. If you select Show Detected UI, you can see that the game detects UI differently. The game is already detecting because it uses the DLSS inputs. So even when playing, as you can see, using frame generation, you don't have any issues with the HUD or the UI. It just works.
Everything just works. Global illumination just works, ambient occlusion just works.
Now that I restarted the game, we can actually see XeSS frame generation working perfectly. There are some issues though when I move fast in some case scenarios, as you can see in Senua's head, but generally XeSS frame generation is working fine. And again, XeSS frame generation would deliver higher FPS. It doesn't deliver higher FPS than the ones that you're seeing because we are recording. But yeah, I'm playing the game and it seems just much better. Quality-wise, it seems much better with XeSS frame generation. And of course, you can also use XeSS instead of FSR in terms of upscaling, not only in terms of frame generation. You can use both XeSS, but you'll have even lower FPS. FSR with an AMD card, in this case scenario, will deliver around 91 FPS with XeSS frame generation, but as soon as you go to XeSS and change the upscaler, you'll have around 83. which is around 10 FPS less. And I do have to tell you that XeSS 2.0.2 looks better in some scenarios. Maybe FSR looks a bit sharper, I would say, but also a bit rougher. If you look at the rain, for example, we can't really see the rain passing through, because yeah, the FSR 3.1 just doesn't work well with translucent pixels, and we are actually seeing some motion artifacts there, some ghosting. And as soon as we go to XeSS 2.0.2, you can see the rain much better. Okay, we still have some motion artifacts, but the rain has much better quality. It depends on what you want, but yeah, it is what it is. You get around 85, 80 something FPS because this game is quite heavy. And just one more time, if you want a smoother gameplay generally with XeSS frame generation, from what I tested so far, you should be enabling VSync. VSync just works better, especially with the Streamline option. Just go to VSync 1, and to me the image will be better. I believe it feels smoother. So yeah, Optiscaler definitely has its issues, but so many new things, really so many new things. XeSS frame generation, XeLL, DLSS via Streamline or via Streamline, OptiFG also working, Hotfix working perfectly, Nukem's FG working as well. I mean, man, you can even select and override the sharpness of the game. If you want the game to look sharper, you can do it on the fly, and it just works. I mean, this is something that every single player aficionado should be downloading right now. It is a must, really. And well guys, that's all for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this long video, but I really wanted to show you the things that I didn't show before. I have some videos on Optiscaler, but now we have so many new things again, like the VSync, like the DLSSG via Streamline, like OptiFG also working with XeSS frame generation and so on. So many new things that I wanted to show you. Man, if Optiscaler was a must-have feature or a must-have software before, now it is a must-have even more. It is just crazy how many features this software has. It makes your games look great, perform better. It has frame generation. You can select in between FSR FG, XeSS FG. You have so many things that it is actually crazy. Again, it is a must-have for sure. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe and share this video. Leave your comment in the comment section. Let me know if you use Optiscaler a lot, in which games. If you use Optiscaler for some online games and you have no issues, just leave the comments in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching and see you in the next video.